Hey guys. Okay, so earlier this week I put a post up on social media where I basically suggested that this week's video topic was most likely going to be on my social housing expedition in Singapore. This stuff just absolutely blew my mind and I couldn't wait to talk to you guys about it. Like, for example, did you know that approximately 80% of their population lives within what they call social housing? And these houses that are offered through this program, they're offered on 99-year leases. So the value of the houses, in theory, decreases over time. Like, this stuff just totally blew me away. And I was like, we have to talk about this. Not necessarily because I think it's a great example or a great model to follow, but because I think there's lessons to be learnt from it. Anyway, I've been sitting here all week just going, I need to make time to try and process everything that I saw so that I can talk about it in a video. And I've kind of been putting it off because the email catch-up post-holiday has just been absolutely mental, and the phone calls and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, anyway, long story short, yesterday I got an email from Naveen and he reached out and he was like, I've got a video topic I'd love to hear you talk about, flooding. What is the current status or the current state of play for when it comes to applications for people who were affected last year in the 2022 February event? And I was like, dude, thank you. Like, this Singapore stuff, my mind isn't there yet. I haven't had a chance to process it. I'm looking for an excuse to change topics, and you've just given me a topic that I can talk about without even thinking about it. So here we are. This is what we're going to talk about this week. So there's 5 key things that I want to fill you guys in on. First and foremost, council is normally going to be supportive of going over the 9.5 metre height limit for a flood affected property where you are directly proportionate to the extent of flooding. Let me explain. So basically, if you want to go up and get to that flood level, and then you have the 500 freeboard, and then you want to build a little bit extra in for more generous floor to ceilings. Let's say you want 3 metre floor to ceilings or 3.2 floor to ceilings downstairs. Or you want to go just a little bit higher because you've got some great views that you want to capture out. Or, as more realistically is the case these days, we're seeing this all the time on jobs, people want that extra breathing rooms. They're like, we want the peace of mind, we want to go that little bit higher. Yeah, if you want to do it for any of those extra reasons, council ain't going to have a bar of it. However, if you're just going up a reasonable amount to make sure you get above that flood level, definitely council's going to be supportive of going over that 9.5. Shouldn't say definitely. I'm sure there's some situations out there where maybe they won't. I just haven't seen it yet. So we've done a bucket load of these applications over the last year and a half. And in my experience, council will always say yes, as long as you're not doing that little bit extra. Next condition is you need to make sure that the parking downstairs is not clearly labelled as parking. So you can still have the slab downstairs, you can still have the crossover and driveway connecting to that slab, like Blind Freddy knows that's what that slab is being used for, but you just can't put some parking labels on there and you can't show outlines of cars. Long story. Next, building on that when it comes to the undercroft sort of areas, you can't put battens around the undercroft. Even 50% semi-transparent or 75% semi-transparent battens ain't flying these days, you just can't do it. Next, if you want to do like a laundry downstairs or a storage area downstairs, which is super duper common, totally get it. If you want to do those things downstairs, you've got to do them as maximum 25 square metre additions down the track. So you got to stage your works, do the raise and all that sort of stuff first, do the slab first, and then come back later and do that as a stage 2. But you've got to actually show for it or allow for it in that initial stage plans that you show to council, so that they don't go crazy and put big amendment in red on there saying you can't do any future works down there, etc., etc. Then, we've got the height going over, we've got the undercroft works, that's what I talked about, then we talked about the 25 square metre timeframes. That was the next thing on my thought process. Timeframes, council is actually prioritising these things at the moment. They're throwing a bucket load of resources at them. So we're seeing these approvals come through in a matter of weeks as opposed to months, which is awesome because obviously everyone's really stressed about the grants at the moment and everyone wants to take action sooner rather than later. They've been treading water for a year and a half. I get it. Final thing I want to talk about, point number 5, is costs. So at the moment, council is still offering a 50% discount on their fees for applications that are a result of flood affected or flooding from the 2022 event. So someone in front of me is just walking past, it's really distracting right now. Anyway, Refocus. So yeah, they're still offering that 50% discount, but they're at pains to say that they can revoke that at any point in time. Now, I haven't heard anything on the grapevines to suggest that any sort of cutback or rejection is looming. I say probably they'll reassess things at the end of the year. So come December 31, that might be a trigger for them to reassess. More than likely, I think once they get to the 2-year marks, once we get to February 2024, that's crazy. Long time. Anyway, when we get to that point in time, they're probably going to reassess things and go, do we really need to still offer this? Has the majority of people who are going to take action taken action, etc., etc., and that 50% discount may be removed. One thing to note on that, you do need to ideally apply for that prior to actually paying council's fee quote. Problem is you can't apply for it until you lodge the application. It drives me insane. I would love to be asking for it in advance. whilst it drives me insane, I totally understand why. Think of it like credit cards, or not credit cards, what are they called? Gift cards in stores. Gift cards in stores, they put a time frame on it, X number of years, let's say 2 years, because they don't want to have this bad debt hanging over them as a business forever and a day type thing. Same thing with council. They don't want to offer a 50% discount and then have to honour it 10 years, 20 years down the track when they haven't accounted for it from a budgetary perspective. So get it. Anyway, point is you have to apply for it at the time of lodgement, and there is a little bit of a bottleneck there. As a result, you do tread water for a few weeks trying to wait for that approval to come through. We have had a couple of situations where clients have been like, time is the number one priority, like we don't care, let's pay it and let's ask for a refund later. I've been at pains to say to those clients, look, trying to get money back out of council is a lot harder than trying to ask for a reduced fee quote. I much prefer to do it the other way around. That's technically how we're supposed to do it, but if you accept that we can't guarantee we're going to get that fee reduction and you're happy to pay the fee, worst case scenario at 100%, let's charge ahead, let's ask for the refund later, cross our fingers, cross our toes, and hope that they agree. Okay, so that is the 5 points that I wanted to talk about. 2 quick things I wanted to add in here. First and foremost, I know. There's going to be a lot of people out there that go, Underc Stuff, that's BS. Like, I've got so many examples where we've had parking labelled underneath, I should say, or we've had battens underneath. I know, I too have got a bucket load of examples where we've done this in the past. Just trust me when I say I've exhausted this issue with council. Like a couple of months ago, I was so close to just throwing my hands in the air and going, I give up on town planning because of this. Not literally, but I was just basically at my wit's end on this issue. So I've done a lot of digging and research into this issue. So what you'll find is over the years, every now and then this issue has sort of reared its head on jobs. It really hasn't been a thing until probably, I think it was March or May this year. Then it started to become a thing within council. We started seeing it pop up more and more frequently. Then probably about 2-3 months ago, it became a definite thing in council. Like everyone was pushing it on every single job. So if you come to me with an example where this has been approved previously with buttons underneath, my first reaction is, when was it approved? Was it approved before this ideally March, May crackdown, or definitely before the last 3 months type thing? If so, well, there's your answer. It's prior to the crackdown. Alternatively, was it lodged back prior to that crackdown? Has the Engineering Council carried out their assessment prior to that crackdown? And I was about to say lockdown, I'm thinking COVID now. Prior to the crackdown, and did they not get a chance or an opportunity to re-see it later in the assessment process, and therefore has the issue not reared its head? Because I had quite a few of those where it's a recent approval and I'm like, how the heck did they do that? And then I dug into it and I went, the Engineers in Council, they assessed it a year ago, or they assessed it 6 months ago. Yeah, okay, this wasn't a thing back then, so that explains why it hasn't actually been raised. But going forward, every single job, again, I probably shouldn't say every single job because there could be a scenario out there where this doesn't apply, but 99% of the time, I'm going to guarantee you now going forward, you're not going to get the parking labels downstairs and all that sort of stuff. Final thing I want to say is, that's it. I had in my mind, I was like, I need to make sure I talk about this, and this. Final thing I want to talk about is, contrary to popular opinion, and I know people think this because I hear it in phone conversations with people every single day, or meetings with people every day, council officers are not sitting there in their ivory towers going, let's play a game here, boys and girls. Let's find out who we're going to mess with today. Let's create some crazy, silly rule here that has no logical merit to it just so we can mess with people. Like, let's have a little bit of fun here. It's not the way it works. Whenever you see a policy change or an interpretation change or something like that coming out of council, there is a reason for it. Now, the solution they've come up with may not be the best outcome or the best resolution to deal with that issue, but it's the best outcome or resolution they can come up with at that point in time. You need to understand town planning is not a perfect science. Like, I think in a video I did a year ago or 2 years ago, I was talking to Kim about this the other day because she was like, I love that video. It just got through to me so clearly. I basically made the point to say, back in whatever it was, early 1900s, 1800s, I can't remember when it was now, they used to use drills to relieve headaches. So they used to literally drill into people's heads to try and alleviate headaches. These days we have Panadol. Like, I for one am super grateful that we have Panadol and we don't need to go get our heads drilled every time we've got a headache. Point I'm trying to make is science has evolved, evidence has evolved, all of that sort of stuff. The medical profession has evolved and we do things better. Panadol, in the future, we might look back at that and go, that was a dangerous drug. Like, why'd we do that? All we need to do was take this innocuous little pill. So there is going to be further improvements and all that sort of stuff. Town planning is the same. It's one of those things where we look back in history and go, why the heck did we do that? That was a bit stupid. But at the time, it was the best example or best idea we could come up with. We learnt from that, we evolved, and we changed. So it's the same thing with council. When I look back on all these things that they're doing at the moment, like taking the parking off, all of that sort of stuff, at first I'm like, oh, WTF, like this is ridiculous. But once you dig into it and you understand the why and the reasoning, I go, still don't like it. Like I still think it's frustratingly stupid, but I understand why they are doing it. And at this point in time, I cannot honestly come up with a better alternative. Like I am constantly evaluating, going, okay, how else can we address this? Specifically within the legal system and the legal framework that we have to operate in. That's the biggest thing. So many times people are just like, but common sense, you have to do this. Common sense doesn't apply to the planning world in this sort of outcome. You need to apply legal methodologies, theories, all of that sort of stuff. You need to stress test it under that. So yeah, so often we look at it and go, yeah, under the planning legislation, planning rules, all of that sort of stuff. This is going to be a long video. I'll wrap it up soon. Anyway, under all of that sort of stuff, it's not going to stack up. It's not going to stand the test of time, etc., etc. So we can't apply that solution. So point is, best thing they've come up with at that point in time. Over time, they will try and improve it, tweak it, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm not sitting here saying it's 100% perfect. It's what we're working with right here, right now. So yeah, don't sit there and just go counsel, hate on them, they're stupid, blah, blah, blah. That's not the case. They're doing what they can at the time. Now, I won't bother going into explaining what those reasons are for all of those different things I've talked about, like why they won't let you build fat in for future-proofing, why they don't want the battens downstairs, etc., because this video is long enough. I'll save that for a different time. Okay, I think that covers off everything I want to talk about. As I always like to say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got three. Number one, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site-specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number two, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number three, what was my number three? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all. Bye.